In this presentation, we are going to look at statistical inference about means and proportions with two populations. So this presentation, I'm actually going to split up into multiple parts. So the first part is inference about differences about the difference between two population means, where sigma 1 and sigma 2, the standard deviations, in case you've forgotten that, standard deviations are known. So we have two groups here. So there's two populations, and we're just going to basically refer to them, population 1 and population 2. And both populations have their own mean value, mu1 and mu2. Okay. Now, later on, we will discuss inference about the difference between two population means where the samples are matched. Another way of expressing that is paired samples, and matched or paired, same thing really. So there's this important, it's a very important statistical technique actually, and that's another one we're going to do later. And inference about the difference between two population proportions. So in these two cases, this case and this case, we're interested in means, mu1 and mu2, and so on. In this last example, we're interested in population proportions, so pi1 and pi2, population of proportion for population 1 and proportion for population 2. Just as a remark, in some other books, it's just actually given as p1 and p2 in some textbooks. I'm going to use pi and pi, but p and p are also fine. Right. Now, first thing we're going to do is look at a an interval estimate, which is a confidence interval. I skipped too far there. So this is an interval estimate, which is the one we're going to look at. The type of estimate we're going to look at is called a confidence interval. So I'll just write that there. Okay. Now, in this case, we're interested in the difference in the population means. So mu1 minus mu2. So if one has a population mean of 100 and the other one has a population of 90, we're interested in the difference of whatever it would be, which would be 10. So Par is a manufacturer of golf equipment and has developed a new golf ball that is designed to provide extra distance. In a test of driving distances using a mechanical driving device, a sample of Par golf balls was compared to a sample of golf balls made by RAP, a competitor. So we have the statistics here in the next slide. So essentially we have two populations, Par and RAP. Okay, so that's population 1, Par golf balls, and population 2, RAP golf balls. Now, the sample from both is used to represent those populations. So just be clear about the difference between population and sample. And we go on to the next slide here. So here are the relevant values. So the sample size and the sample mean. Okay. Now, we're going to put in the notation here. So we have the sample size for sample 1, Par, and then we have it for RAP. So I'm just going to put in some extra notation here. So we have sample size for sample 1, N1, and we have sample size for sample 2, N2. We have a sample mean, that's a sample mean of 1, so that's X bar 1, not mu1, X bar 1, and likewise X bar 2. So 275 yards and 258 yards. Okay. Seemingly there would be a difference of about, what's that, 17 yards? Okay. Now, based on the data from previous driving distances, the population standard deviations are known. Okay, so we're going to use sigma. With sigma 1 is 15 yards and sigma 2 is 20 yards. Okay. So moving on from that. Now we're going to piece it all together here. Let us develop a 95% confidence interval for the difference between the means, the mean driving distances of the two brands. So, just a couple of remarks here. 95% confidence interval. 95% confidence interval. Now, if you just recall, there's a construction to confidence intervals, and one component is the quantile, and the quantile is z, which denoted z alpha over 2, and that's going to be 1.96. Okay. Now, if you're unsure where that comes from, I advise you to sort of go over some of the earlier stuff again. So, just as a quick remark, we have our quantile there, 1.96, because it's by the way, we're dealing with population known. So, okay, and it's also, just as a remark, it's actually also a large sample. Remark, large sample. Just something to notice, actually. And again, if you're not sure why I'm making that remark, it's probably best to revise some of the earlier material. Now, just a general idea of the construction. So we have our point estimate. This is the general construction for a confidence interval. Plus or minus the quantile, which we have now is 1.96, times the standard error. Okay, so we have this is the general construction for a confidence interval. This part here, I'll just highlight it in green, or go around it in green. So this is essentially what we are about to construct here, using this construction here. So quantile we already have now, it's 1.96. So let's find the other two components. Again, that was a very, once you're familiar with quantiles, that was very straightforward. 1.96 is for 95% confidence intervals. So, population 1, the Power Inc. golf clubs, golf balls. mu1 is the mean driving distance for Power golf balls. Now, just a remark, all Power golf balls. Likewise, mu2, mean driving distance for all wrap golf balls. Now, we took a random sample of n1, which was 80, well, 120 and 80. I can't remember which was which. And we got a sample mean from those golf balls. So a sample mean of those 120 golf balls. Okay. So again, this, I highlighted this earlier, but I'm just sort of drawing the distinction between the population and down here we have the sample. Okay. Now, this is what we're interested in. The difference between the mean different distances. Okay. Now, this here is what we're going to use as an estimate. So the sample mean of 1 minus the sample mean of group 2. And that's a point estimate for mu1 minus mu2. Okay. So we're going to use our sample means, the difference between the sample means, as a point estimate. So that's another part of our golf club, our confidence interval constructed. So there it is, mu1 minus mu2. As I sort of stated earlier, the difference is 275 minus 258, and it is 17 yards. Okay, so that was straightforward enough. So let's move on to the next part. I'm actually realizing this video is getting quite long, so I'm going to finish in the confidence interval and then do the hypothesis test in a different slide presentation. Now, this is the construction again. So we have our point estimate here. This is when we actually put in the notation for the actual terms we're using. That's the point estimate. The quantile is here. Plus or minus here, that's a plus or minus sign. So the last part is, I'll put this in orange or something like that, is this component here. And this is the standard error. Now, usually you're given this at the back of an exam paper or something like that. Sometimes you have to remember them. Now, if you recall that we were told earlier on that the standard, the sigma 1 was 15 and sigma 2 was 20. Now, just remember to square them, because we're dealing with variances here. Sigma 1 squared, sigma 2 squared. So we're interested in these two values here. So that's 225 and 400. Okay. Now, we're doing a bit of calculator work here. So it's 225 divided by 120 plus 400 divided by 80, and we would work that out. So, and then we multiply it by 1.96 as well. Okay, and that works out to be 5.14. Okay. So that is, we actually would call those two values together the quantile times the standard error, the margin of error. Okay, so it is 100 and, it's 17 plus or minus 5.14. So the confidence interval is these two values here. It's 11.86 and 22.14. Okay, so we're 95% confident that the difference between the mean driving distances of power and RAP is 11.86 to 22.14. Right, I'm going to wrap that up and start the next presentation here.